This lesson is a continuation of arithmetic operations and applications. Next, we're going to talk about comparing numbers, or as you might hear in math or see in the instructions, inequality. An inequality compares two values. So we have greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and I also put the equal sign here just to make sure that when we have equals, we know that the right-hand side is equal to the left-hand side. Example 1. Fill in the blank with the appropriate symbol, greater than, less than, or equals, to make the statement true. So what I typically do with this is I like to determine which one's bigger and make sure that the mouth or the big part of the inequality is facing the bigger number. So in the case of -3, and 5? 5 is bigger, so the big part of the inequality would point towards the 5. And then if we were to read this out loud, this reads as -3 is less than 5, which is true. If you're $3 in debt, it's worse than having $5. Part B, -100 compared to -7. Which one is bigger? The one that's closer to 0 is bigger. So again, we have -100 is less than -7. 9/11 versus 5/6. This is what I would use a calculator for and get the decimal approximation. So if you do 9 divided by 11, it's about 0.82. And if we do 5 divided by 6, it's about 0.83. So in this case, 5/6 is bigger. Next, determine whether the statement is true or false. So with these problems, make sure that each side of the inequality is simplified as much as possible, and then determine if the statement is true. So on the left-hand side, 3 times 8 is 24. So we have 24 minus 18, less than or equal to 6. 24 minus 18 is 6. And we want to know if 6 is less than or equal to 6. Before I give away the answer, think about it for a second. This one is true. Because of this or equal to, we have 6 is less than or equal to 6. Now, if we had something like 6 less than 6, that wouldn't be true because 6 is not less than 6. But because the or equal to is there, it makes it true. Moving on to part B, simplify both sides. Again, with the left-hand side, if you're going to put it in your calculator, those brackets function as parentheses in the calculator. I'm actually going to put it in mine for this problem. So the left-hand side is 110. The right-hand side is 70. Is 110 bigger than 70? The answer is yes, so this statement is true as well. Next, we're going to go on to applications, and I have a couple of tips for you before we get started. With application problems, you have to bring yourself in the context of the problem, work on the math, and then put yourself back into the problem to make sure that your answer makes sense. So for instance, if we're solving a measurement problem and we get -15 as the length of a side, that's not possible. I can't do -15 feet somewhere. Okay, so make sure that you put the problem in context, understand what it's saying, grab the math out of it, solve the problem, and then make sure that your answer makes sense by reviewing the problem. Application problem number 1. The lowest temperature ever recorded in Detroit was -21 degrees, so negative, Fahrenheit. The highest temperature ever recorded in Detroit was 125 degrees more than the lowest temperature. What was the highest temperature ever recorded in Detroit? Okay, so thinking about the context of the problem, we have the lowest temperature recorded, and we're told that the highest temperature ever recorded was 125 degrees more than. So when we talk about more than in this problem, it's going to denote addition. So one way to visualize the problem is I'm going to draw kind of a thermometer here. Our lowest temperature is -21 degrees Fahrenheit. And when we're talking about more than, is our highest temperature going to be bigger than or smaller than the lowest? Well, it's going to be bigger than. It's 125 degrees more than. And this will give us our highest temp. Okay, so the math for this problem would then be negative 21 plus 125, which is equal to 104. Now review the problem and make sure that your answer makes sense. Application number 2. Your credit card has a balance of $126. You make a $32 purchase and then pay $25 towards the balance. What is your new balance? So we're going to step away from this problem for a moment and talk about a credit card versus a debit card. If you have a debit card, it corresponds to an account that has money in it. So let's say you go to the store and you run something with your debit card. Your checking account balance is going to decrease because you just used that money. When you get paid, you put your money into the account and your balance increases. With a credit card, you're running it on credit, which is money you don't actually have. So if you go, let's say you buy something on Amazon and you use a credit card, you're borrowing money or you're adding to the balance. Okay, so when you use a credit card, your balance goes up because you're borrowing more. If you make a purchase, it goes up. And to pay down the balance, you pay towards that, and then your balance decreases. So you can kind of think of credit and debit as opposite. With debit, you use your card, your bank account goes lower. With credit, you use your card, your balance goes higher. With debit, if you put money in your account, the account increases. With credit, if you pay towards the balance, your balance decreases because it's being borrowed. Okay, so let's go back to the problem. Your credit card has a balance of $126. So you owe this credit card company $126. You make a $32 purchase and then pay $25 towards the balance. So let's start step by step. Our card has $126. If you make a purchase, because it's credit, the balance goes up. So this 32 is actually going to add to our balance. Okay, so after you make that $32 purchase, your balance goes up. And then you decide, okay, I'm going to pay off my credit card a little bit. And you pay $25 towards the balance. Because you're paying it off, you're coming out of debt, the balance is going to decrease, so we subtract. So your new balance would be $133. Application number 3. Death Valley, California is 86 meters below sea level. Mount McKinley, Alaska is 6,194 meters above sea level. How many meters higher is Mount McKinley than Death Valley? So we have Death Valley and we have Mount McKinley, and we want to see how many meters apart they are. Okay, so what I would draw is, since when we measure elevation, we're measuring in reference to sea level, I would give us a line that denotes sea level. And then Death Valley is 86 meters below. Okay. So we'll talk about a couple different ways to solve this problem. Some of you might be thinking, shouldn't that be negative 86? Yes, it can be, and I'll show you that next. Mount McKinley is 6,194 above sea level. Okay, so we want to know how many meters apart these two are. Well, if we take a look, they are 6,194 plus another 86 because we got to go below sea level to get to Death Valley. So way number 1 to do this is to draw it out as I have on here and then say, okay, this is 6,194, this is 86. So totaled together, I could add these two. And this would give me 6,280. So Mount McKinley is 6,280 meters higher than Death Valley. Way number 2 to do this problem, we're still going to draw a similar picture, but in this case, I'm going to mark Death Valley as negative 86, and Mount McKinley is 6,194. And if we want to know how much higher Mount McKinley is than Death Valley, we can subtract these two numbers. So that would give us 6,194 minus negative 86. Minus a negative turns into addition. So it becomes exactly how we did it the first time on the left-hand side. And this gives us 6,280. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, or there is free tutoring and academic success coaching available.